design, bad planning, faulty foundation, substandard materials, operational and construction failure. Mix them all together and you have the building tumbling down. The incessant building collapse in Nigeria is a major concern not only to the professionals associated with the built industry, but also to the clients as well as the environment generally. Now, collapsed building could be total or partial failure of one or more of the components of a building. This is also that which leads to the inability of the building to perform its principal function of safety and stability. What is being done to find lasting solution to some of the causes and effects of building collapse here in Nigeria? What is being done also to see to the successful implementation of the corrective measures as well as the guidelines. These are some of the issues to be looked into by guests with me on Nigeria Today. Welcome to the program. My name is Blessing Abu. Now with me in the studio to speak on this burning issue, I'd like to welcome Town Planner Omar Shaibu. He is the coordinator Abuja Metropolitan Management Council. Head, of course, that's from being Abuja Industries is in the Federal Capital Territory. I would like to welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Also in the studio we have Engineer Peter Osariodio Igbene Jesu. He is a National Vice President, Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers, as well as a Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Nigerians.
Yes, I just started off with what could actually be your job, mixing the right materials with the right operation, and you have a steady and safe building. Correct. But when it goes the other way, which is what we've experienced recently, despite the huge number of professionals in the built industry, we still have compromises here and there affecting what people have termed professionalism. Why this recurring problem?
Thank you very much, Blessing. I think the issues keep reoccurring because, as we normally say, we always tend to look at issues from a different angle. If you recall, there's a popular saying, because all measures we do, for any time we have collapses, we set up panels, measures, these issues are discussed, recommendations are made, which is just touching the surface. But rather, as professionals, we should be looking at situations of prevention so that we can always avoid situations like this. But the issue is that unless in the process of building, we have the design, the planning, construction, maintenance, the core professionals involved in these processes, so long as they are not involved, we keep on having issues relating to building collapse. So we need to stem them.
Great enough, we have someone who is a town planner, and I'm sure as a coordinator for Abuja Metropolitan Management Council, he has seen several of the situations coming before him. What exactly is not being planned right?
Well, in the first place, we have regulations in Abuja. When anybody is allocated a plot in Abuja, the purpose clause for the development is stated in the certificate of occupancy. And the conditions governing the development is also stated in the certificate of occupancy. Now, before you commence development, you submit your plans to the Development Control Department for them to vet and make sure that that development is a standard development. It undergoes all manner of vetting. Planning, architectural, structural, electrical, and mechanical engineering designs. And a developer must submit to us all these plans and soil test report, engineering calculations, environmental impact assessment report. All these are requirements, including fire service report in case of fire. Now, apart from that, all these reports are prepared by registered professionals. Not only that, we require the seal of that professional there, his identity card from the professional that he belongs, engineer, architect, or all professionals. they are all there before we collect somebody's submission.
Okay.
The problem is that most of these developers, instead of engaging the right professionals, they engage quacks because they want to save costs. And when they go to site, our officers are always going there to make sure that they abide by the rules and regulations.
If this is so, Tamplana Omar Shaibu, for your members, or at least for the professionals who oversee and check out some of those areas of operations, if it's so, why do we keep having that? This recent one is getting too many, especially in Jabi area. I think because even the last time we had, it was the same Jabi axis and all of so. So if you have your members actually checking from site to site, especially for now that you say, okay, most of the developers employ the services of quacks, who checks those quacks?
Yes, regulatory bodies. Now,
are they being compromised in their work?
We check the quacks, quite okay, and then if we notice that you commence development, either prior to approval, or you do not go, you do not follow the procedure of state-by-state submission for us to revalidate your plans, because when these buildings was abandoned for a long time, before continuation, you apply for validation.
Okay.
An integrity test will be conducted by us to make sure that that building is sound and it can.
Was it done in the case of this last one?
In the case of this one, we are now investigating that matter.
Okay.
You see, whenever we have such a process, such an accident, we first concentrate on saving lives. This one was so monumental that it took us almost 3 years, 3 days. 3 days, even getting to the 4th day, because when we employ the services of all our equipment and all those construction companies that are around brought out the heavy equipment to help us to work overnight. We continue to make sure that we evacuate all those debris. We don't leave anything unturned. Perhaps we discover something, and because of that we discovered.
So investigation is on.
Investigation is on.
Okay.
And anybody that is found wanting, believe me, is not going to be spared.
Okay. All right. Back to the structural engineering. I mean, now the foundation of a structure is can fail from wrong estimation, right? Yes. Of the bearing capacity of the soil, which already pointed out. Yes. Now, what other components do we expect when you're getting involved in such? I know there are other factors.
There are a lot because.
What about the basic things you want to look out for?
The basic things is primarily what is the intended use of that structure.
Okay.
And when you now determine based on the brief you have gotten from your client, then there are certain design loads which you must take into consideration when you are carrying out your design analysis. And that is why we in the Institution of Structural Engineers, we have been stressing that you should engage the services of corporate qualified structural engineers to handle your structural work. And just as I said earlier on, it's just because core professionals are not allowed to do their work.
Why are they not being allowed? Are they overpricing themselves beyond the reach of those clients?
Not that they are pricing, even because the regulatory body, CORRECTIVE, you understand, I have set standards and there are prescribed fees you normally pay. Even these are still subject to negotiation. It's not because just as the coordinator said, most clients want to cut corners, and this will give rooms to quackery. So
is it the system giving them room to cut corners? Because some of them actually are professionals.
Of course, like as Irali said,
they compromise on some of those areas.
Like as Irali said, the regulations and the laws that are put in place for you to get approval
are not stringent enough?
They are stringent and they are there. Enforcement is another issue.
Okay.
You understand? Enforcement is another issue. But as I was saying, because when you do your design and you take all the load considerations, like the case of Jabion, apart from the fact that it was abandoned for a long time and it needed integrity, but if, for instance, the client had a structural engineer in place and he wants to restart work, apart from going for revalidation and getting approval, he will have been able to advise on what should be done. So long as structural engineers are not allowed to do their work, we'll continue having such issues on our hand.
Let's take a look at some of other areas that could, apart from what structure could be, with no aspect of materials to be used?
Construction and the rest. That's why I said we always say that failures can be categorized into three.
Okay.
The one we discussed earlier on, the design and detailing, then the material and the construction phase. Then the third aspect is the overall use of the structure. Such structures are abused, and they have caused failures, and they have caused collapse. You understand? I can give you an instance. If for instance, you got approval to do a residential building, from nowhere you are now converting it to a commercial use. You understand? The structural engineer, the low considerations are basically different. That is why you must know ab initio, what does the client want to use that structure for.
Supposing you know, and AMMC doesn't get to find out from, okay, let's assume, okay, you don't even have a structural engineer on site or someone who should know. How do they get such reports?
It is wrong, because by their regulation, they should have a structural engineer.
Yes, you have structural engineers that vet these plans. You see, there is one aspect that we must take into consideration.
Which is?
You have regulations. And the people that, the developers that should abide by those regulations must be disciplined. Definitely, we lack discipline. Our people, when you regulate, you say you must do this, you must do that. They feel that you are imposing so much harm issues on them. Not doing that is for their own good. Look at example of what happened now. Whatever we do is for the benefit of the developer, for the safety of the citizens.
Exactly.
But they don't take it into consideration. They always like us, always people, anytime we go and mark a building, they say development control on it again. Okay. If we demolish, they say demolish on it. This is the consequences of not doing whatever we are doing.
So you said something about implementation, or at least some of those rules and regulations. Is there any weak points for bodies like yours addressing that?
You see, whatever weak points that we have, whoever compromise in the system will not allow him to continue. There are disciplinary measures in which they must face, because we cannot continue the way we are. Nigeria is changing.
So what kind of penalties are being spelled out contravening such regulation and guides?
Yes, this one is using the extant rules in the civil service. Whatever the civil service rule says about contravention or people aiding all these type of foundations are going to be dealt according to the rules of the civil service. These terms are going to be applied. If they are not being applied before, this time around is going to be applied.
The coordinator spoke about regulations and which are quite apt and there, but we as professionals, what we look at is that, let's take for instance now, you say a building of certain magnitude should have certification. A structural engineer, you mentioned this, should submit his calculations, soil report, all those type of things. It is true that they go, but as far as the regulations are regulators are concerned, they will just look at, he has a current stamp, he's a civil engineer. But he may not have had the prerequisite training to handle structural elements.
So
you
this
understand?
This is where we are
already we are, because the Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers is a professional arm of the Nigerian Society of Engineers.
Okay.
And we are trying as much as possible now to make current, you understand, so that it's still in the process, so that by the time current comes, because that is the government recognized body, that for you to handle certain structures above certain limits, you must be a certified structural engineer.
Could it be that it's because of all this discordant truths among your different professional bodies? This one is going this way, there is no cohesion.
They are not aligned core professionals in their right.
Everyone assumes they are core professionals.
No. Just as the regulators will say, no. As an architect, you conceive the building in line with the brief you've gotten from your client. Your work stops there. But somebody has to make that structure stand. You cannot say because he is a civil engineer or is a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, he will handle all aspects. No.
Engineering is engineering.
No, that is where the issue is. Engineering is not engineering.
According to what you say,
yeah, it's not.
We have structural engineers.
Yes, under your own council as well.
But the problem is that the professional bodies, let them distinguish. if they have a special seal for structural engineers.
That is what I'm saying. There are
What we know is that
tunes among the
there are
professionals.
seals. You see, it is the seal that gives the professionals that define the person that we work with, that define the person that we recognize. So if there is any problem with that regard, the professional body should solve that.
That's why I said that we are in the process, because as at now, as a regulatory body, they will just be satisfied that a civil engineer is certified.
So how long has this process commenced?
It's about a year old now.
Oh, okay.
You understand? So very soon, CORE will come out with the new guidelines that for certain structures, there must be a structural engineer C along with those drawings, so that it takes responsibility.
Okay, gentlemen, we'll go on a break now. When we return, it will be time to take a look at what other things AMMC is doing and what other structural engineering formats we need to take a look at as we save the nation the huge investments and also save lives. You're watching Nigeria Today on the NTA News 24. We will continue with the conversation after this break.
The Nigerian Television Authority News 24 channel, your dependable all-round news station, offering you world-class news programs, documentaries, spotlights, promos, and information highlights. Take advantage of our network reach and advertise your interest, goods and services with us. NTA News 24, first equals with digital broadcasting. You can reach us on Channel 21 Terrestrial TV and Channel 101 on the Star Times platform. For more inquiries, please call CORRECTIVE 0803 618 9986 or Henry on 0803 379 0884. Join us today.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, the program is Nigeria Today, and we're taking a look at collapsed building, the attendant issues therein. I still have my guest in the house. I have a town planner, Omar Shaibu, who's also the coordinator of Abuja Metropolitan Management Council, and also structural engineer and fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Peter Sarodion Minije. So now let's take a look at other sanctions. Okay, let's even start off. Now, when we have such issues, AMMC, of course, I know you had already started the issue of people having the new look of the city. We see putting up aspect, okay, people should actually paint their houses, paint their fences, paint everywhere to at least to look clean. What other role are you involved in making sure the city is safe?
Now, the other roles that we are very serious about is abandoned buildings.
Great.
Whenever a building becomes abandoned for 5 years, before anybody should continue, we must conduct integrity tests. It has to be validated and intrinsic must be conducted. Again, if any developer allows anybody, even if it is illegal, to occupy that building, maybe construction workers or the security around in the site, to be living under that is also illegal. We have been saying this only before, they are not even complying.
Even if it's on a daily basis for them working?
On the daily basis. No, if they are working, unless the integrity test is satisfied, it has been conducted, yes, they can continue work. But when integrity test is not conducted, it is not safe for anybody to live there. So anybody that is counting now, the new this measure, we're going to be very strict about it. Very soon, things are going to change. Developers in Abuja must sit up. We will not condone any indiscipline in the aspect of construction in Abuja, because we must stop all this tide. Yes, accidents occur. It is not only in Nigeria they have building collapse.
Certainly.
But it's not an excuse for anybody to allow his building to collapse because of negligence. If you look at whatever is happening now, all this building collapse in Abuja, by the time it didn't happen, the developers run away. Because they know we are very stringent in making that they compromise.
So this particular one has gone into thin air now.
In fact, engineer we cannot even question him because the engineer is not,
nowhere to be found.
He's in the hospital under intensive care.
Oh.
Yes, we are not even allowed to even see and question him now because of the injury that he has sustained. Now look at what he has
caused himself.
Of course. Sorry for all what happened, but if we are disciplined enough to know
the law
that
must
all these regulations are for our own safety, are for the safety.
Okay, now let's take a look at other aspect of safety. Now, I know consideration to pointed out different soil type pose their own various problems.
Of course.
Now, take a look at Abuja, because I know building collapse all over the nation too. We have different parts. But Abuja, let's take a look at the kind of soil type, especially one that is around the same Jabi, because most of the ones we had in that axis.
When you talk about soil conditions, one need to be careful. You will discover that within the same vicinity, the soil strata may be different.
Okay.
And it depends on the total load that will be supported by soil foundation. You have to carry out your
soil test. But that behavioral pattern for seasonal or groundwater?
No. Luckily for us in this country, we don't have such.
Okay.
But in the process of doing your soil test and they carry out the analysis, if the water table or the groundwater is a bit high or low, all those results will determine it.
Okay.
And as a structural engineer, you will be able to know what type of foundation.
So that is why it's imperative
that you must have it. You understand? Okay. Although the regulation now is for a certain number of levels, these are the type of conditions you must meet. But when it now goes, when we talk of high rise and the rest, it's very imperative that you must have your soil report, and you must design to be able to, so the soil to be able to support it. Right. And as you mentioned earlier on, the bearing capacity is a major factor. You understand? Because as we said, everything coming down from the roof through all the structure down to foundation has to be firmly supported. Any movement and all can cause failure too. So your foundation type, your foundation design has to be right.
Great. Well, we know that in every organization, human resource is very key. Because if you have all the materials, the right human resource is not available, then we are all wasting our time. Now, for effective town planning, of course, let's get back to the town planner here. Responsibility of monitoring, regulating. How much of knowledge are these people that have been asked to monitor and regulate? How much knowledge too?
Yeah, we cannot employ somebody that is not a professional. The department is a professional department. So we have town planners, we have engineers, civil, mechanical, and electrical, vetting all these aspects of these designs. All the designs that are submitted to us, the architectural is there. The mechanical is there. The mechanical is going to be handled by a mechanical engineer. Structural by a structural engineer. You make sure that all the calculation, because when the load bearing is not balanced, you have problem. It is this structural engineering engineer that is going to determine that. Okay. We have electrical engineers. Okay. And again, we have the planners that are going to vet environmental impact assessment report. You see, you made mention of an area. But you forgot that there is also a season.
I asked the question,
most building collapse
during the rainy season.
During the rainy season, and within July and August.
So why is it so?
Now, when somebody is submitting his plan for approval, it goes along with environmental impact assessment report there. In this environmental impact assessment report, the physical condition of that area, climate, soil, man-made and physical, all of them are included. So how much rainfall is received?
So all this will be contained in whatever. So what is the way forward? Now I know you have been meeting, all of you, the professional bodies and all this on. What's the last word? We must go now.
Okay, as we said earlier on, the existing laws are quite okay. But we have to find a way of implementing them to ensure that we run away from abuses. He made mention of quacks being infiltrating into the profession. We should try as much as possible to eliminate quackery. And as I said earlier on, we must try as much as possible allow core professionals
to come in,
to operate in their
and to be regulated by AMMC and other regulatory bodies there.
Right.
Now, you see...
I have to thank you now.
Yes, it's okay.
Anyway, thank you very much. I know you have much and lots to say about this. We'll find out the time exactly to look into other areas. Well, that's the program. I want to appreciate Omar Shaibu, is the coordinator, Abuja Metropolitan Municipal Council, and also a town planner that in his own right. Thank you very much for coming on the program. We'd also like to appreciate engineer Peter Osaradio Igbeni Jesu, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
And we
Blessing.
appreciate your efforts. Let's hope all those quacks will be kicked out by you very soon. We also like to appreciate you for watching. Thank you for staying tuned till now. Monday is another time to join us on the program. Remember, Nigeria Today comes to you every day of the week. And you can actually watch this edition or any other edition at all online at www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. My name is Blessing Abu. Enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy your weekend.